The fossil record proves evolution happened. Don't you idiots understand science? Evolution is a fact. No matter what specific topic you're discussing regarding the creation-evolution debate, whenever an article or video is posted where the comment section's open, comments like the ones I just said are sure to appear. And those are some of the nicer ones. And I can honestly see why. Growing up the way I did, with no influence from the church, the Bible, or even any deistic religious viewpoint whatsoever, the story of evolution was so firmly established in my mind as science and fact that anyone who questioned it seemed rather untethered from reality to me. I found it hard not to view them with intellectual contempt, as anyone denying the overwhelming proof of the story of evolution based on facts like dinosaur fossils, ape-man skulls, the 98% similarity between chimp and human DNA, the geologic column, etc., seemed idiotic, to put it bluntly. I truly remember feeling just that harshly towards those I considered what would today be called science deniers. And when you feel that you have the full weight of science and an avalanche of truth in support of your beliefs, any opinion in contradiction to it seems so weak and dismissible as to be beneath serious consideration. And of course, the internet tends to encourage some bad behavior sometimes. I think of it metaphorically like a gang leader that's so sure of himself, with all of his backup behind him ready to help him out whenever he wants. But what if he spun around to find out that there was no one standing there to rely on? You see, that's just what happened to me when I was finally challenged in my belief in materialism and had to present the evidence in support of it. And when I was asked what the best proofs of evolution I could muster were, I turned around with all this cockiness and confidence I could portray and found out that many of the proofs I'd put my faith and trust in had disappeared without me knowing it. A hallmark of evolutionary thinking is the idea of change over time. And this notion certainly plays itself out whenever someone asks the question, what are the best proofs of evolution? Especially if we were to do so throughout history. What if we were to do that from way back in the day all the way up to the 2000s? For example, let's begin by asking that question at the time of the launch of the book that's the bedrock of modern evolutionary thought, Darwin's Origin of Species. Well, in 1859, you might have been presented with Neanderthal man as proof of our evolutionary ancestry, even though they'd been found 4 years earlier and had already been declared fully human by a professional anatomist. However, the release of Darwin's book fueled the search for fossils of imagined ape-like ancestors of man in the evolution-believing community. And lo and behold, 4 years later, Irish geologist William King decided to re-examine the fossil skull of Neanderthal man and promptly decided that he was an ape-like creature. And many variations of this idea were propagated as science and fact for well over 150 years afterwards. Today, of course, evolutionists have admitted their true humanity, which is why they're designated as Homo, which means human, Neanderthals. And definitive confirmation comes from no less than Dr. Eric Trinkhaus, an evolution-believing paleoanthropologist, considered one of the world's foremost authorities on Neanderthal man, who's concluded, detailed comparisons of Neanderthal skeletal remains with those of modern humans have shown that there's nothing in Neanderthal anatomy that conclusively indicates locomotor, manipulative, intellectual, or linguistic abilities inferior to those of modern humans. Now, obviously, humans evolving into humans isn't exactly proof of evolution, so you can scratch them off the list, as Neanderthals certainly aren't proof positive of evolution anymore. However, moving on to 1861, you may have finally found yourself presented with some rock-solid proof in the form of a missing link between dinosaurs and birds, called Archaeopteryx. Good old Archae was used for decades to convince people that a true transitional fossil between lizards and birds had been found. But alas, in 1977, an admitted true bird was found which dates, according to evolutionist methods, at 60 million years older than Archaeopteryx, which means Archae couldn't be the transition to birds from lizards if birds already existed. Professor John Ostrom of Yale acknowledged, We must now look for the ancestors of flying birds in a period of time much older than that in which Archaeopteryx lived. Indeed, far from being some unique dino bird, Archae shared much of its supposed unique anatomical structures with true birds that exist today, like the South American Hoatzin, for example. So much for Archaeopteryx as undeniable proof of evolution.